Episode, I'm talking to Coko Galore and Daphney Joseph, also known as Coko and Daphney, Toronto's preeminent comedy duo. What up, listeners, and welcome to the Gasian podcast, where we interview performers, writers, and entertainers about their craft while exploring their life experiences that have shaped them as artists. I'm your host, Vong Show, official spokesperson for Gay Super Cute Asians, and I'm super excited about today's guests, Coko Galore and Daphney Joseph. Thank you so much for being part of the show. So Coko and Daphney are, such a huge dynamic improv duo in Toronto. They just recently celebrated their 6-year anniversary together, performing in front of sold out audiences in Toronto, New York, Chicago, Montreal, Ottawa, Philadelphia. And thank you so much for being a part of the show.
Thanks for having us.
Yes.
Okay, so 6 years together. That is quite a long time. Why don't you take us back to the beginning? How did you first meet, and how did Coko and Daphney become, how did you guys come together?
Actually, it's 6.5 because we celebrated 6 years in January, and then the world happened. So 6 months went by and we're like, oh yeah, we're 6.5 now. Daphney, why don't you tell them how we met? I like your version of the story better.
Really? No, I'm nervous because
just tell your version. Like, I like your version.
I mean, from what I remember, I could say the first time I saw Coko perform, it was at Second City. So we met at Second City. We never had any classes together, but we would meet at something that used to be called Long Form Thursday.
Yeah.
It's Friday. And I remember watching Coko perform. And one thing that resonated with me is that her offers that she would put out there, it would bother me because I would see that people wouldn't grab them, and when they were not having fun with it, because Coko is not someone who's going to go on stage. And I mean, now it's different because you're.
Oh, Daphne's frozen. I think she wants to say now it's different because I'm.
Am I frozen?
No, now you're fine. But I think you wanted to say now it's different because I'm a bit more seasoned. But keep going.
Yeah. So like you would do the offers, and sometimes in improv, it's not always the person who's the loudest that's making the best offer and stuff like that. So I remember that, and I had a show following week, and then Coko and I started talking. And Coko, I remember the first thing you said was like, because I had done a show the week before, and someone had touched my hair, and I went during the show, and then you brought it up when we were like, by the way, I remember when you did that, and you clocked it, and I remember going, oh my God, a Black girl in improv. And then later on, I found out that she spoke French. And I was like, a Black girl that speaks French in improv, never speaking English with her again. And
so,
that was
so what happened was that day, it was after a show. We went to a bar. It used to be called Charlotte Room. It's no longer there. And that's where all the improvisers from Second City used to hang out. And then we were talking to our mutual friend, Jason. She was talking to our mutual friend Jason, and then I came, and then that's when I was like, oh, I speak French. And she really was like, oh, you speak French? It's over. I'm not speaking English again. And then we found out that we actually lived down the street from each other in Scarborough. And she's like, what? I don't have to take the bus for 90 minutes? I was like, yeah, I'll drive you. We actually ended up sitting in a car until 4 a.m. and she had to work at 9.
Yeah.
And and so we were in the car till 4 a.m. Just laugh. Like, it was one of those cosmic things where we just hit it off the minute we started talking. And then we were kind of like inseparable after. And we didn't actually form a troupe until like 2 years after that. So that was 2012.
Yeah, you're good with dates.
Yeah.
Wow. It's kind of funny because I met you both individually because Daphney Joseph and me were in a Second City class together. Yeah.
D? Is it C or D? I remember we had class, then I just never saw you again. And then you pop out back. I was like, hey, you were in my class like 6 years ago. We were in the same class.
Yeah, I pretty much disappeared from comedy for about 5 years, and then when I came back, you were still here, and you were successful in performing, and I was so proud to know you. And then Coko, I met you first as a stand-up comedian. I saw you perform. You were headlining a show in the Toronto Village, and then the first time I saw Coko and Daphney together as a troupe was at Shade, the 2-year anniversary, and that show was bonkers. Anna Simone George, shout out to her, one of the best producers in Toronto. That show was the production levels.
That was an event. We felt like rock stars when we came out.
And especially it was a surprise, if I'm not.
Yeah, we were the surprise guests because we had our 5-year anniversary, which was a huge deal for us. Yes. Like 2 days before Shade 3.
Yes.
Shade 2. And so we asked Anna to keep our appearance a surprise, which sucked because like people couldn't purposely buy tickets to show. But it was really exciting when we came out. Like, and we had to hide. We had to hide the entire time until we came out. We had to pretend we were not there. Yeah.
That was a good show. Yeah, that was a good show.
Just a quick question, because I'm like a very egocentric person, and I'm just thinking if I was in a troupe, the first thing we would argue about is whose name goes first. Like, how was that conversation between, is it Coko and Daphney or Daphney and Coko?
Oh my God, that was actually not even a conversation, funny enough. Our coach was like, just be called Coko and Daphney. Yeah. We were trying to come up with these fancy names on things that we liked. We're like, oh, we're going to be called the French macaroons. We're going to be called all kinds of things that we just had in common. And he was like, why don't you just be called Coko and Daphney? Which was just alphabetical. That's all it was.
And I said it, we're like, okay.
That's exactly what happened. We're like, oh.
We had like all these, like we had innuendo also. We had like the dumb thing. And then we had so many of this thing. It was just, we're not Coko and Daphney.
Well, here you go. Sometimes if it's meant to be, yes, Coko, sorry.
Well, not only was it meant to be, but I think also like Matt Folliott, who is was our coach, he had like foresight, right?
Yeah.
Like he was just like, just use your names. Like we want to know who you guys are. And this was when nobody cared who we were. So he had like the vision.
He did.
Shout out to Matt Folliott.
Hi, Matt. And
Mario.
Be a thing was very important. I know for me, for the rest of my career, how it's important that my name is there. So calling it Coko and Daphney, people know that there's a person named Coko and there's a person named Daphney. Yeah. And it was a smart thing to do.
Yeah.
And it was so weird.
So back then, as you mentioned, Coko, back then people didn't know your names. They didn't know who you were. But now you've built up huge name recognition and you've got a very loyal following, lots of sold out shows, as you mentioned, like 6.5 years of shows, and people keep coming back for more. Like, how were you able to build from, unknown students to having like this loyal fan base that's performing in multiple cities across North America?
Whew, wow.
Yeah.
How did we do that? You know what? We worked our asses off. That's what it was. Yeah. We worked our asses off because now we're both full-time artists. At the time, we both had jobs because we're also a little bit older than a lot of like our peers at the time.
Yeah. Don't be fooled by this. Don't be fooled.
Don't be fooled. Don't be fooled. Yo. But when we first started, we both had full-time jobs.
Yeah.
And we like saved, went to different cities, paid our way into festivals. We went to whatever festivals would accept us. And for about, I want to say 3 years, we like all those things we did that. Like we would take time off, and it was hard because we both had to pay in different ways, right? Like Daphney worked Monday to Friday. I mainly worked Saturday and Sunday and weeknights. And so I had to sacrifice not working. So you can imagine the structures that we had to like compromise and stuff. And we would go on weekends. So Daphney's working 9 to 5, then we're hopping on a flight on Friday, you know, at like 5 p.m. and then coming back on Sunday night, and then Daphney's back at work at 9. And say for me, it's like I'm not working the weekend, so I'm sacrificing like monetarily. So it took a lot of hard work and sacrifice. And also the thing that we did is we kept working on our craft. So we trained well into 5 years, and now it's only because we don't have the time, but we actually want to go back. We see it as like we're athletes.
Yeah, it's all about sharpening your I was gonna say your stool. That's not it.
Go sharpen that stool.
Sharpening your stool. Oh,
sharpen that stool.
People who are listening just logged on. They're like, yes.
You're like, stool. Right.
I remember when we kept rehearsing, and we had people who started after us who didn't have coach, who didn't think they needed to rehearse. Like we would hear this all the time. They were like, you guys are still rehearsing? Yes. Yes. And all these festivals, we would ask. Now it's a completely different world that we're living in. But back then, that's us like asking to be in a festival, hoping they take us, pay for the flight, pay for the hotel. Hopefully we get a good spot. And then now you press fast forward, and now they're asking us to come back. They're asking us to teach. They're asking us to headline. So consistency was definitely, and we did shows where there was 2 people in the audience.
Well, actually, I was gonna say we flew all the way to Chicago. And no one showed up. We did a set for the other troupe. We're like, we don't care. But here's the thing, we did the set for the other troupe. In that troupe, there was a director from another troupe, and his show was his troupe show was the next day. And what he did was he then emailed the festival director. I emailed the festival director, but because he saw us, he could vouch for us. So his second troupe carved out 10 minutes of their time. Another troupe carved out 10 minutes of their time. And we got a spot the next day to a full house audience. Funny enough, ironically enough, at the Second City in Chicago.
And
we very much saw ourselves as, at this time, we had seen ourselves as Second City rejects. So we were like, this is funny. This is the stage.
It was the last, I don't know if it was the last show of the festival.
It was the last show of the festival.
I remember closing and having the other group take time out of their set for us. I thought this was, and I twisted my ankle on stage. So thank you, Chicago.
Thank you, Chicago. Thankfully, we did all our tourist walking the day before. Woo!
Now, you sort of mentioned that, you know, you really work on your craft a lot. Like, how do your skills complement? Like, if either of you had to say, like, what was the biggest strength of the other, and how that sort of helps complement and makes your troupe, you know, as cohesive as it is?
That's a nice question.
That's a beautiful question.
I would say definitely one of the strengths of Coko and Daphney is Coko's etiquette. Coko saw the vision way before me. I'm very I like to get to the fun part really quickly. So when Coko was talking about like branding and what we are also the show that we do and the etiquette and what we are asking from promoter and people, and like setting a certain standard for Coko and Daphney, I didn't see that. I was just like, tell me when to show up so we could get on stage and do the fun thing. That's something that I had to learn now that I'm older and understand the business side of being an artist. But if it wasn't for Coco's structure of like, and putting us at a certain level, elevating us, then and demanding that we need it, that we are that good and we deserve these spots. And if something is not right, calling it out like, Coko and Daphney was supposed to get this. Because talent is one thing, but what happened behind the scene is as important. And so I think one of the biggest strengths, I would say that for Coko.
Thank you. What? I have nothing
You
to
better
say.
fuck
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. You imagine like, yo, I have nothing to say. Actually, so here's the funny thing is what Daphney just described is not only my character as a business person, but also my character on stage very much. Like I am the P's and Q's. That's the term, right? That's the thing. I am the one who dots the I's, slashes the T's. I am that person on stage as well. And I think like Daphney said about herself, like she just wants to have fun. And I think that's the part that Daphney really brings to the stage and also to our just career, right? Like I can be a little too serious sometimes. So there's two things. One, she definitely like reminds us that it is an art. We're here to have fun. We want to be on stage. We're here to entertain people. And so it's this thing where I'll be business. And then we'll get behind the curtain and it will be like, yeah, we're going to have fun. And then we get on that stage and then I forget the business part until I see a mistake. I'm like, why is that light over there? I'm kidding. But the second part is also like one thing that I love so much about Daphney, and not only from the start of when I started playing with her, but this is also in our business relationship, is she always has my back. So when I go out there and I'm fighting and I'm like, yo, why are we getting this spot? I know that I can do that and I can come back. I was gonna say come home because of course we're married. And Daphney will be like, okay, like whatever you're saying, I have your back. Whatever we're fighting for, I have your back. And sometimes, like, we'll be frank, sometimes she may not even understand what I'm fighting for, but she's like, I still have your back.
Yeah.
And I love that. I love that because it's basically the test of like that they have for actors where they ask you to fall blindly and someone's supposed to catch you. And that's the thing, is I can always fall and Daphney will always catch me. And that's like, it's a strong point of not only of Daphney off stage, but also of Daphney on stage. I got you.
That's beautifully said. Beautifully said. One thing I want to talk about too is sort of, we've talked about how you've built your audience, but also how you said you felt like you were Second City Rejects. Like, how were you able to like create your own space and carve out that audience as opposed to going through, the Second City route or the more traditional route that feels more open to I'll just say it, to white people. So it's just white people.
Say the W word.
I think the thing. So this is an interesting thing, and we often talk about this actually, in a way, is because we're two Black artists. Well, I'm Black and Asian. Daphney's Black, and like because we're two Black queer artists, we get to play for. We not only have to play for white people, which is what you do, right? Because like improv comedy house is very white, but because of actually very specifically Sabrina Douglas, we got to play things Black girls say. Yeah. Because of another performer named Amani, we got to play a show called Black Like She. So those were us. And when we did improv in front of those all Black audiences, they were like, we loved your skits. That was improvised. The point just being that we got to play to different houses, different audiences, queer spaces, Black spaces, Asian spaces. And because of that, I think we just got more people to trickle in with time, as opposed to only having a traditionally white, like
Yeah.
Improv savvy audience. And also, one of the huge differences was that we didn't teach until way later. A lot of people, they do their classes, they get on those stages, and they come out and they teach right away.
Yeah.
And so there almost is like a bit of a cult following of students who also go to all their shows. We don't have that. So we had to build a regular people audience.
Yeah.
And it's different. It makes you feel different. You expand differently as an artist as a result, I think. Definitely.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, we definitely were not. We were no one's Coko and Daphney's, right? We were Coko and Daphney. We didn't belong to anyone. And that's something that, again, Coko had mentioned earlier in our career. Because then we don't have to, we could play anywhere. We played in the backyard. We played in the living room. We played
everywhere.
And Coko and Daphney, we were never, like, if there's a stage, we're on it. If you need something, and we, like I had, and that's something I'm working on. I have trouble accepting praise or saying good things about myself. Like, so Coko and Daphney is great. I know great because we're having fun, but going on stage and doing all these rooms, you can't ignore us at this point. And this is not something I would say 2 years ago, but on top of the hard work and everything else, we did some good shit. I've seen people have stopped me, and I'm sure have stopped Coko separately, who remember specifically a scene that we have done. Shit that we have done 3 years ago. So on top of the etiquette, we did a good job.
Yeah.
we did that.
And that's that. End of podcast. Mic drop.
Yeah. We did that shit. So I think after a while, you can't ignore it. And even if they didn't see us, the full extent of how great Coko and Daphney was in Toronto, let's say at the beginning, let me tell you, when we went outside, when we played in any of these other festivals, we were asked to come back. And now it's something else I realized. The improv community is not that big. And when I say improv community, I'm not saying just in Toronto. Like
globally, yeah.
Globally, it's not that big. So other performers were like, I remember them. Can you? We were referred by other performers who had no reason to. So after a while, you have to accept and say, we're
here. Yeah, it was very much we're here, and we're just not going anywhere. Thanks.
Yeah. I removed that word inclusion in vocabulary, because I'm like, this doesn't belong to you. You're not including me in anything. I'm walking in the same way everybody walked in. And then when you hear other Black performers, like, I remember watching you 3 years ago, you're like, oh shit. Start to like sink in. I cursed a lot. I haven't checked if that's a thing, because you might have some editing to do.
Oh, cursing? Oh, no. This is rated E for explicit.
Sorry, I just saw my mom just texted me, and mom text messages are so important. And the text says, "Where did you get the iPad cover?" This morning I posted something about my mom, who's not, sorry, this is like a side note. My mom is Chinese, and she's not very like emotional. And years ago I was like, I love you. I was trying. And she's like, yes. That's all she said. And I posted this in 2013, and I reposted it today. And she went and liked it, and it added like a face heart at the bottom. And I was like, oh God.
Oh yes, I feel like Asian mom's version of saying I love you is asking if you would like more food.
Yes. That's exactly what it is. You walk in the house, did you eat yet? That is the I love you. When you leave, do you want some takeout? That is the I love you. You're right. Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. My mom, she'll comment on a lot of my posts, but very unrelated to anything I'm talking about. So I remember I had gone on the first date with my boyfriend, whom I live with now, and I just posted pictures of us, and then she replied to the picture. She was like, "Hi Vong, I love you. Why aren't you calling your mom?" And this was like the guy just went on one date. He was like, what's going on?
He's like, whoa, okay.
He was like, you need to call your mom. So yeah,
You need to call your mom.
Asian moms are the best. So just one quick thing, you mentioned sort of like the larger improv community, that it's not as big as it might seem. It's a close-knit tight community, and it is a community that has been hit with scandal very recently.
Yeah.
CEO of Second City, Andrew Alexander, recently resigned after Dwayne Perkins shone a light on the institutionalized racism that was running rampant throughout the organization. I think, I wouldn't even call it an open secret, because it wasn't even a secret. So like, I'm not even in improv. And I'm like improv adjacent, and even I had heard about it. So it wasn't really a secret to anybody. But coming from the improv world, how is this sort of how has this impacted improvers in Canada? I do know that after Dwayne Perkins made his comments, there were some Canadians as well who came out and made comments. And yes, this is like the longest leading question ever. I will actually let you answer it, but there you go.
How has it impacted the improv community?
Yes.
Woo, okay.
Yeah, the question was so long.
No, it's not that. It's just, I think we're trying to decide how much tea do we want to spill today?
All of it.
So I mean, here's the thing, right? Like, I am now, this is so weird. Like, I hate being like, but
talk your shit.
Okay, all right. Like, the thing is that I am also so weird. This is so weird. I am artistic director of an improv theater at this time, right? In Toronto. So I am artistic director of the Bad Dog Theater. And just a silent gun. Pew, 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 pew. And I think that, so I don't even know how to start. I don't know how much I can, I feel, so it's going to, I hope, so for me, as the artistic director of a theater, for me, as a Black Asian woman, it hasn't impacted me in the sense that I'm like, oh, racism?
Yeah.
Start reading. I need to start reading. That's not my experience, right? For me to get where I got, there were some very intentional moves by people before me that were like, we want to make sure this happens. And what happens when you make this kind of choices is you have, like, I am a bit more considerate about representation when I cast shows, and when I curate lineups, like I curate Black and Funny, I curate, like improv shows and stuff like that, and festivals and whatever, and like very intentional. And I'm a person of color. I'm Black, I'm queer, I'm Asian, and I am doing it with intention. Can you imagine how much work it would take for a white person? And I feel like they don't understand that. And the conversation now is like, we have to do reading. And I'm like, I get that you have to do reading, but you also have to be so much more intentional as we move forward. And that's the part that I'm like, do y'all understand how much work y'all have to do? Because if I'm also doing this much work, because we're all dismantling it, right? I still exist in patriarchy and white supremacy. So I'm also dismantling. So it's the intention behind it. And I think that's what I'm hoping to see, is that, yes, Andrew Alexander resigned. Yes, a lot of grievances are coming out in all forms, not just anti-Black racism, but, like homophobia, transphobia, all of the above is coming out. And I think that what needs to happen is every move from now on needs to be really thought out. It cannot just be a passive, yeah, we'll just put them on stage without thinking it through. And I think, and I hope that's what will start happening with improv, which is so counter to our art form, because our art form is on the stage in the moment, like, you know, oh, what we do on stage, we don't even think about it after. So it'll be very interesting to see. I don't even know if I answered your question, but hey,
Daphney. That was beautifully put. Do you have anything?
Daphney's like, hi.
Daphney to that?
You know what it is? I feel like every time there's any type of scandal in the improv community, and I've said that to a few of my friends, I always ask the question, is it racial or sexual? I don't know what's going on in the community, in the comedy community. Either people are always speaking spicy about someone else, or people can't keep their hand to themselves. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is about. It's always that. It's always someone said something, or you don't know that you're not supposed to touch this person that way. So I don't produce any shows. I don't do any of that. So I know for me, I'm doing a lot of work writing my own stuff. I don't know if this will answer your question. I just want to say I'm sad that such a beautiful art form is tinted by that. Like, improv is known for that now. And that really, really bothers me. As like the artist part of me is like, we can't just have fun. We can't just have art. Someone is always, because of all the patriarchy and everything that's happening, I think the word in English is soiled, or you tainted something good. So whatever they have to do, I'm not a producer. I'm not in that life. I don't want to be. But people who could do stuff, do what you got to do, so we don't have to keep having these conversations. And when we call you out, take the L, take it, say, I did that, and then keep it moving. Yeah. And then don't do that again. Keep your hand to yourself.
But see, this reminds me of, okay, as you're talking, and it just really highlights how different we are. So Daphney is basically telling you, okay, we're all kids. We all want to play. We show up at someone's house, like our friends, our neighbor's house, and Daphney's the person who's like, I just want to play. Nah. And I'm the kid who's going, I think these parents are racist. Like, and that's basically what it is you go to someone's house, you just want to be a kid and you just want to play with your friends. Yeah. And then you find out this is a get out situation. Like, what's happening?
Too much. And it never ends. And this is the thing. We've been doing improv for so long. This is nothing new. People now have time in their hands. So they're spending a lot of time reading and then writing shit. This is nothing new. And this is why when you go to and I will say Second City, because I do work there and I've worked there and I've trained there. When you go to these things and you see that it's like this everywhere, every second city, so then you're like, what is, I don't know how someone could fix it. It would be to break down the whole thing and have a lot of transparency. And it's like, yo, we've done this. We were careless. I never saw a Black woman on main stage in the whole time that I was there. And it's not like Black women are not talented. It's not like we don't have stuff to say. It's not like, hello, we know we are. I've seen it. We are one of them. So I hope they have a plan. I hope people have a plan. I don't have one. Just put your hand to yourself.
I don't have one for you, but I hope you have plans. Like, it's hard. Like, I feel because we have to remember that Second City is the biggest improv institution. Yeah. So, but there's a couple of things. Is Second City's main thing is improv, but it's improv to sketch. And the reason why Second City is so known is because sketch artists, then a lot of them, go on SNL or back in the day, Mad TV, SCTV, and then they expand, become movie stars, etc. Right? Like Tina Fey is a famous Second City alumni. She's a showrunner, a head, like all of the things. And I think that's the reason why it shook our industry so much. because it's the leading institution of improv and comedy that is now being like, all what's happening, all eyes on them. And I actually just hope this keeps happening. And I don't mean that in the sense that like, I don't want businesses to thrive, but I think that if you have been profiting off the pain and oppression of people, whatever that identity is, whether it's someone's identity as a Black person, as an Asian person, as a queer person, as a trans person, if you have been profiting off, because the thing is that it'd be very different if they just kept all of us out and made all their money with their whiteness. That's not what was happening. We were being used, like, you know what I mean? Like, we were on the stages, we were in the rooms. And so it's almost like you're riding off of our back for you to springboard and you become successful. And I think if you've been doing that, you have to dismantle. That time is now, and that time is done. Like, we are coming for our things. So get ready. I don't know what else to say. We are coming for our things. I say this with a smile, but I assure you I've been very tired for days.
So transitioning away from improv just a little bit, because I felt like that was a great place to end. Very eloquently put. You know, as I mentioned, I first met Coko as she was headlining as a stand-up comedian. So I actually didn't know that Coko was an improv artist until probably 2 weeks after that. And I've also seen Daphney Joseph as a headliner at Comedy Bar as well. So that's very unique that you're both part of this hugely successful duo, but also on your own are successful enough to be headlining stand-up comedy shows. Like, what's it like to perform on your own, being out doing stand-up comedy with that type of pressure, headlining a show versus sharing the stage in improv?
That's okay. I remember the first time I did solo work, which was 2015. And I had to be on stage by myself for 45 minutes. I was terrified because I was like, oh, no one's gonna, oh, Daphne's not just gonna, oh, there's no, oh, I just gotta, oh.
Can't tap out the scene.
I was like, oh, there's no. And I would say that what it made me specifically, I can't speak for anybody else, and I think it's because I came from improv. It made me very comfortable with being still and in silence. And I think I started training myself, and it was that, Daphney, do you remember the show, the face scrubbing scene?
Yes.
Mixed Chick. So that scene, so there's a scene that I do in Mixed Chick that made me very comfortable with silence, because the director told me you have to sit in that silence and take your time with it. And it started to make me more comfortable with just, so one of the things so it made me more comfortable with like being on stage by myself. That's one. And two, one of the things that's like, especially as an improviser, you're used to like, oh, I talk, like there's a constant banter. And I think even for stand-ups, I remember one stand-up, like a traditional stand-up route person said, if they're not laughing every 3 seconds, like it's over. And I was like, yo, I'm perfectly fine with silence. And I think it trained me in that, like that way. And I actually kind of like it. And then I brought it back to improv, and we have scenes where we might just do a silent scene. And I don't know, I like it. It's bomb.
Yeah. I think for me, it's not the well, obviously being alone is one thing, but like we've done stand-up and storytelling and improv. The difference for me is what I learned is that with stand-up, I had to be, I realized that stand-up was an exact science. For me, I understood, like, again, because I always want to have fun, when I started doing stand-up, because I also came from improv to stand-up, and I never wanted to do stand-up. I never thought, Coko was actually the first person to tell me, try doing stand-up. And I would do my stand-up set and have the same energy I had in improv. So I don't know where my jokes were. I am a pretty funny person, so I would make you laugh regardless, whether or not it's a stand. You're probably gonna laugh around me, but understanding that I have to repeat this again and have to repeat this again. And if one day this laugh, I didn't understand the real structure of stand-up. So, but what I did understand was that nothing was precious. Oh, you don't like this joke? Don't worry about it. I moved on to the next. So you couldn't feel like in stand-up, I always say that in stand-up, you made a promise to the audience. You said, hey, I wrote this and this is funny. Not only that this is funny, I know exactly where the joke is, right here. And I'm going to stop so you could laugh and I'm going to get back at it. You told that to the audience. You didn't make that promise with improv. Improv, you're like, I'm making this up. I'm going to create this story and I'm going to take you to this journey. So I had to learn from when I got to stand up, it was that nothing is precious. Say your joke, but be clear. I had to be a little bit more structure. It definitely brought me be a little bit more structure. Pause here. Like I'm someone who speaks really fast and I talk all the time. The wait for the joke to be over so I could continue talking was very hard for me because I'm looking at the time. In improv, I don't know what time it is. The lights is gonna come off. You would tell me when the party is over. In stand up, I'm responsible for all of this. So I'm looking at the light. I need to do the joke, and there's a structure. I'm not starting with my stronger jokes. I'm starting with the second strongest.
Okay,
I'm
don't
putting
give away all your secrets, Daphney. Daphney's like, this is how you do a great stand-up set.
What? I don't know. I'm talking to the.
No, I'm laughing at you. I'm like, don't give away all your trade secrets.
Oh.
Daphne's like, okay, Daphney stand-up 101 first.
Yeah.
Get him with the hard hitter.
So don't listen to the part.
No, I mean, I agree with you. And I think, and it's interesting because once we both, like, we dabbled in things, but I think every time we, like, it's almost like we have an open marriage. It's like we go and try things out with other people and then we come back and we're like, yeah.
Bring that.
We're like, let's bring it into our marriage.
So looking to the future, this obviously this weekend is Pride weekend, and normally I'd imagine all of us would be performing all week long with lots of audiences. So my multi-part question is, first of all, how are you celebrating Pride now that there's no parade, and do you have any performances coming up? Digital? Have you transitioned? Or yeah, I'll open it up with that. How can people find you?
How can people find us? So this weekend we're doing a show for a Merge Festival, which is the Twin Cities plus Black and Funny, the original one from Minneapolis. So they're doing a Merge Festival this weekend. So we're doing a headlining set at 10 p.m. Oh. We thought it was 9. We forget about time zones. Yeah, on Saturday nights. And after that, Daphney has a show. Oh, sorry, you can actually pump your own show.
Well, it's the Bad Dog Comedy TV, which is
well, that's what I was going to talk about. Never Have I Ever, but I'm like, that's your show. I produced it, but it's your show.
It's under the. So Coko started this really. There's shows every night on Bad Dog Comedy TV, online shows. Tonight I have a show. I'm part of the Oval cast. So if you're a fan of the show, The Circle on Netflix, you're gonna love it. And if you're not a fan, you should still check it out. And then I do a talk show, which is a weekly show on Bad Dog, again, Bad Dog Comedy TV, Fridays at 9:30. And it's the classic drinking game, Never Have I Ever. So it's me and three other comedians. And we're comedians, and we're just playing Never Have I Ever. So I found out about their business, and at the end, everybody is trash, so it's really fun.
Yeah, and then and then tomorrow, actually, now that you're talking about shows, I'm like, oh yeah, I am doing a show. Tomorrow night, I'm doing Hookup, which is one of the best-selling and most popular shows of Bad Dog. And it's basically we pick two strangers and get to know them and then basically improvise what it would look like if they hooked up. And tomorrow we're doing an all queer version. So it's at 9:30 on Bad Dog Comedy TV on YouTube.
Oh, that's amazing. I'll definitely be tuning in because I was at a live performance of that show, and it was super fun. It was super fun.
Yeah, and it's been really fun transferring energy to online and digital spaces. I think it's very interesting.
It's very interesting. I might be, keep up with my social media to a kids show in French. So this is pour les personnes qui parlent français, and it'll be for kids. So this will be in next month. So we're hoping to see that too. So just for les francophones. I mean, if you could watch it, if just for the lyrics. It's fully francophone, but if you want to speak, it's for kids. So that might be that's in the works. So it will be on my social media.
Yeah,
it's great. It sounds like there's a lot going on. There's a lot that you can find if you love Coko and Daphney, for sure. Also, if you weren't able to write a lot of that down, I will put it in the show notes, some links to their upcoming shows and to their social media profiles. So definitely check them out. And thank you once again, Coko Galore, Daphney Joseph, for being on Gaijin.
Thank you for having us. Congratulations on your billboard.
Yeah, congratulations on your billboard.
Oh, thanks. Oh, yes. I should give a shout out to Spotify Marketing for putting me on that billboard. If you're in Toronto and near Yonge Dundas Square, look up above the Eden Center and take a selfie. Send it to me. And because I'm just that vain. Okay, and happy Pride, and we'll be back for another episode soon.
Thank you.